Do you think a little solo cabin trip sounds peaceful? Think again, because the Smoky Mountains don't do relaxing getaways. They do nightmare fuel with a side of, why did I come here alone? Today, we're diving into 10 absolutely bone-chilling, true encounters from the Smokies that'll make you reconsider your next camping trip. And trust me, by story number 7, you'll be double-checking your looks tonight. Let's get into it. Story 1. The thing that knew his name. Picture this. You rent a secluded cabin. No cell service, no neighbors. Just you and your existential dread. Sounds great, right? Wrong. One guy learned this the hard way when something started knocking on his cabin walls at night. Not random knocks, deliberate, calculated knocks. Then he found the footprints, bare feet, long toes, under his window. But here's where it gets really messed up. This thing called him by name. In the middle of the night, it whispered, "Come out," in voices that sounded like his mom, his old roommate, and something else entirely. 3 voices layered together like the world's worst harmony. He bolted the next morning, and 2 weeks later, a package arrived. Inside was the cabin's curtain and a photo of him sleeping, taken from outside his window. The reflection showed a pale face with glowing red eyes wearing his features like a mask. Yeah, blackout curtains don't sound so paranoid now, do they? Okay, so that was terrifying, but at least it stayed outside, right? Well, buckle up, because story number 2 involves something that doesn't understand the concept of personal space. Story 2. The wrong jointed mimic. A campground maintenance worker thought he had the dream job. Peaceful woods, simple tasks, no drama. Until late one October night, he encountered something crouched on the trail that his brain really wanted to be a bear. Spoiler, it wasn't. When his flashlight hit it, he saw a face with huge glossy marble-like eyes that didn't reflect light. They just absorbed it. Its limbs were bent at impossible angles, like someone built a human from IKEA instructions, but skipped a few steps. When it stood up, it uncoiled like it had no bones, towering over the trail with knees that bent the wrong way. And here's the kicker. It didn't chase him. It didn't need to. Every time he looked back, it was just closer, like it had fast-traveled through reality while he blinked. No sound, no movement, just closer. The next morning, they found tracks. Not human, not animal. Something caught between a bird and a person. He quit that day. At least that thing stayed semi-quiet though. But what happens when whatever's stalking you starts making noise? Not good noises. The worst noises. Story 3. The glitching scream. 2 brothers hiking Carver Ridge thought they'd found the perfect unmarked trail. They discovered old collapsed railroad tracks, explored the ruins, and were feeling pretty adventurous until they heard it. A scream from deep in the woods, not a help me scream, pure feral rage. And it didn't get closer, it just appeared closer, like someone dragged the sound through space. Then it started circling them, fast, erratic, impossible. The scream jumped from in front of them to the left, to the right, to behind them, faster than anyone could run. It didn't follow the trail. It didn't follow physics. It glitched like corrupted audio, skipping positions like a video game lag. These grown men started praying. One of them isn't even religious. The scream cut off mid-shriek, like someone hit mute, and they ran. They haven't been back since. Local legend says it's the voice of someone who went missing near those tracks, trapped in the trees, or something older that the forest lets loose when it's bored. Either way, hard pass. So far we've got mimics and glitch demons. Fun times. But what if you're not just being followed? What if you're being hunted? Like, strategically? Story 4. The Feral Watchers. One backpacker went solo into the Blue Gate Mountains for that peaceful, disconnect from society experience. Day 1, chef's kiss. Day 2, found a surgically dissected rabbit in the middle of the trail. Clean cuts, no blood spray. Positioned like an offering. Then he started hearing footsteps parallel to him, matching his pace, stopping when he stopped. That night, he saw him, a filthy figure at the edge of camp, covered head to toe in grime, hair in ropes, just watching. Didn't speak, didn't approach, just crouched and stared. The next day, he found trees stripped of bark in perfect vertical lines, fresh cuts, done carefully. Then he saw 2 of them on a ridge path, barefoot, skeletal, waiting. When one crouched like it was about to pounce, he ran. Then came the whoops, high-pitched signals echoing through the trees. Not words, not laughter, hunting calls. He crashed through the forest until a ranger found him looking like he'd fought a bear. He never explained what he saw. How do you? Okay, so human-adjacent monsters are bad enough. But you know what's worse? When the forest itself starts messing with you. Story 5. The loop that shouldn't exist. 3 friends took what should have been a simple day hike in Pine Brush Mountains. Easy loop, scenic overlook, back before dark. Except the forest had other plans. First, they noticed the silence. No birds, no bugs, nothing. Then they found a handprint in the dirt. Not a hand with claws, a hand. 5 long finger marks. No explanation. The trail started changing. Slopes where the map showed flat ground. Forks that didn't exist. They passed the same teardrop-shaped boulder twice on opposite sides of the trail. At noon, they heard dragging under their feet. Wet, heavy, moving when they moved, stopping when they stopped. Then they saw it cross the trail behind them. Arms too long, joints bending wrong. And its face, smooth grey skin stretched over bone. No eyes, no nose. Just a slit that twitched open and shut like it was tasting the air. It made a hiss like air through torn lungs. They sprinted downhill, and the dragging followed, patient, persistent. When the sounds finally stopped and normal forest noises returned, they stumbled onto a parking lot they'd never seen. The trail they'd hiked didn't exist on any map. They'd walked a path that wasn't real. Wild, right? But at least they escaped. What happens when you can't escape? When you're literally stuck in something that won't let you leave? Story 6. The Stitchers Ridge. 2 brothers rented a cabin near Hartwell Ridge for a relaxing mountain escape. At the gas station, the local warned them, don't get caught on the ridges after dark. Not unless you want the Stitcher finding you. They laughed it off as mountain superstition. Big mistake. That night, they took a casual walk under the stars. The trail looped, but they kept passing the same moss-covered split log, exact same break, exact same position. The path hadn't forked. They'd somehow circled back. Then something started following them. Slow, deliberate footsteps just beyond the flashlight beam, circling them. One brother felt it. A hand brushed his shoulder. Cold fingertips dragging down his shirt. His brother was 10 feet ahead. Couldn't have been him. They bolted back to the cabin, and the footsteps kept perfect pace. Inside, every creak and groan sounded like something trying to get in. They sat against the wall until sunrise, packed up, and left with the gaslight blinking. They've never spoken about it since. The Stitcher isn't just a story. So that's supernatural stalking covered. But here's a fun question. What's creepier than being followed? Being called by something that knows you? Story 7. The Voice Thief. 3 college friends went on a week-long backpacking trip through the Smokies. By day 4, they'd found the perfect rhythm: hike, camp, sleep, repeat, until one of them woke up to his name being called. Quiet, drawn out. It sounded exactly like his friend Derek, except Derek was asleep in his tent. Then it called again, closer but hollow, like someone slowed down a recording. The voice started circling the camp with footsteps that had no rhythm, speeding up, stopping too long, dragging. Then came the laugh, a rattling wheeze like fluid in lungs. And the voice said, "Come out," in Derek's tone. Then it called Derek's name, in Derek's own voice. All 3 friends heard themselves being called by perfect imitations of their own voices, sometimes soft, sometimes mocking, sometimes all 3 names mashed together like corrupted audio. They abandoned their gear and walked through the night while the voices followed, whispering their names, mimicking their conversations. When they finally reached the ranger station at sunrise, the voices just stopped. No fade out, just silence. What in the woods learns voices and wears them like masks? They didn't stick around to find out. All right, we're officially in never camping again territory. But wait, it gets weirder. What if the location itself is wrong? Like reality breaking wrong? Story 8. The Ridge That Doesn't End. A solo hiker asked a ranger for a quiet, low-traffic trail. The ranger warned him about a ridge north of Kepler Fork where people went missing. Not often, just enough. Search teams came back confused, swearing the trees moved, finding footprints that started in the middle of dry creek beds. The hiker ignored the warning. Classic. He camped on the ridge, and when he woke up, his firing had vanished, not scattered, gone. Smooth ground where it had been. He marked trees with his knife to track his path. When he returned, the trees were clean, no marks. His name appeared carved into a log he'd never seen, burned around the edges, old. His campsites kept reappearing no matter which direction he walked. Same spot, same firing, rebuilt perfectly. His journal reappeared with a page torn out. He walked for an entire day without reaching an exit. The ridge was looping him, trapping him in its own pocket dimension. When he finally hit a gravel road, he fell to his knees. The ranger looked at him, handed him water, and didn't ask a single question. He already knew. Okay, dimensional weirdness is nightmare fuel, but you know what? At least those were solo encounters. Imagine experiencing this stuff with friends, and all of you seeing the same thing. Story 9. The Camper Haunting. 3 guys borrowed a beat-up camper that hadn't left storage in a decade and drove into the Smokies for cheap weekend isolation. They parked on an old ranger road, miles from anywhere, and set up camp. First night, normal camping stuff. Second night, they met a ranger on the trail who told them there's nothing up there but rot and silence when they asked about ruins. That night, they flew a drone with a thermal camera. The feed showed heat signatures arranged in a circle around trees, pulsing like the ground was breathing. When they found the spot, a lone chimney stood in a clearing, blackened at the top, everything else erased. A woman's voice hummed from the tree line, soft, tuneless, repeating. When he stepped toward the chimney, the humming stopped instantly. That night, something breathed outside the camper wall, heavy, deliberate, right by his head. In the morning, footprints, human-shaped but wrong, long toes, oddly spaced. They found a piece of blue fabric in one guy's sleeping bag that none of them packed. Then came the fog and the whispering, voices circling the camper, murmuring like conversations in another room. When they finally tried to leave, the trail split into two paths. Where there'd been one, they kept looping back to the clearing, and the chimney was whole again, smoke curling from the top. The chimney collapsed in slow motion when they ran. They emerged hours later on a gravel road, and the driver who found them said they were lucky they didn't end up in Widow's Hollow. They never asked what that meant. And now, for our final story, and trust me, we saved the absolute worst for last, because this one breaks all the rules. Story 10. The Thing in the Firelight. 4 friends went on a weekend camping trip in the Smokies, found the perfect isolated spot by a creek, and settled in for a chill time. Everything was perfect, until the forest went silent. Not peaceful, empty. No crickets, no owls, nothing. Then they heard footsteps, heavy, measured, deliberate. Not an animal. Jake stood up and stared into the darkness. Then came the growl, too deep, too human, distorted like it came from somewhere voices shouldn't exist. Something stepped into the firelight, tall, way too tall. Limbs impossibly long, stretched in ways they shouldn't, moving fluidly like it was floating above the ground. Its shadow stretched across the entire clearing. Then they saw its face. Pale, translucent skin stretched thin like it had been drained of life. Black void eyes. No pupils, no irises, just empty darkness you could fall into. And its mouth, no lips, just rows and rows of jagged stone-carved teeth. When it smiled, it wasn't a smile. It was sizing them up, hungry. One of them threw a burning stick at it. The figure jerked back, its head snapping like rubber, and its body morphed, elongating, stretching into something worse. Its limbs twisted, its face warped into something unrecognizable, and it vanished into the trees like it was never there. They huddled by the fire until morning, too terrified to sleep, surrounded by shifting shadows and odd noises. By sunrise, they packed without a word and drove straight home. They don't know what they encountered, but they know one thing. It wasn't human, and it wasn't from this world. And there you have it, folks. 10 encounters from the Smoky Mountains that'll make you think twice before booking that peaceful cabin getaway. From voice-stealing mimics to reality-warping ridges to literal nightmare creatures, the Smokies are apparently running a supernatural theme park, and nobody sent us the memo. If you survived this video, smash that like button. And hey, if you've had a creepy encounter in the mountains, drop it in the comments below. I read every single one, and who knows, your story might make it into the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we've got more terrifying true stories coming your way. Until next time, maybe stick to urban exploring. At least city monsters are predictable. Stay safe out there, or don't go out there at all. Your choice. Peace.